This morning. This is part of our mastery series. This is number 6 actually in our mastery series. So we talked about marketing mastery, we've talked about sales mastery, we've talked about financial mastery, mastery and team mastery. And today we're going to talk about probably one of the most important ones, which is self-mastery. On the basis your business is never going to be any bigger or better than you as an individual, as a business owner. And your business is never going to grow faster than you grow as an individual. It's just true. I've certainly learned that over my 6 years of coaching. So self-mastery is about how you grow as an individual, as a business owner. So very warm welcome to the other two coaches of the Henley Coaching Partnership. Chris, good morning, Chris.
Good morning, David. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Jo.
Once I'm on mute. Morning, everyone.
So just in terms of the protocol, be really grateful if you could stay on mute throughout the session until we get to the Q&A and interactive bits. And if you have any thoughts or questions, just pop them in the chat box, because it's really interesting to hear your views as well as the views of the speakers. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Chris and Jo, who are going to be leading this session. So Chris, over to you.
Perfect. Thank you, David. Good morning, everybody. Super excited, as always, to be part of the Mastery series. And as David said, our final one of the series, and what a journey I guess it's been. So thank you for all of your support over the last 6 months, joining us I guess on the journey. Really excited to be sharing this this sort of workshop with Jo. Jo, an incredible background in some of these areas, worked in the Silicon Valley with a number of entrepreneurs, business coach and performance coach here at the Henley Coaching Partnership, and a psychotherapist. So I actually dealt with some really interesting scenarios and people, and helped them through some really challenging and interesting times, which I'm sure Jo will sort of share with us as we go forward. And for those that are new to the call that don't know me, my background, 15 years in the military, specializing in leadership. I worked down at Henley Court, our National Rehabilitation Centre, some time on the Invictus Games over in the States, and then currently a performance coach working with David, and the chief exec of the Rugby Centurion. So I guess when I look back over my journey, I've had the fortunate opportunity to work with some incredibly brilliant people, whether it's from military perspective in terms of the Red Arrows pilots to special forces, whether it's on the athlete stage from international athletes, both in rugby and in tennis, and more recently in the last 4 or 5 years, some incredible entrepreneurs who have done some amazing things. And the one thing I think they always have in common, which I guess astounded me, is just their ability to manage themselves really well. So they get themselves into the best possible shape, both physically and mentally, to deliver at the best in whatever skill set their domain is in. And I think when I look back to 2013, 2014, there's a guy on the call here today, Graham Galt. We went over to the States. We went over to a place called IMG. So it's a huge tennis academy. I used to play tennis for Wales and represented the armed forces. And we visited Nick Bollettieri's tennis academy, and an incredible place. Always wanted to go there. In fact, my dad actually took me there when I was about 10 or 11 years old, and didn't let me play. Took me all the way to Florida on a holiday and took me up to the gates of Bollettieri's tennis academy to show me what it was like. And I never got the chance to play. So I guess when I went back in 2013-14, I was really excited by this opportunity. And we've been there about 2 or 3 days, immersing ourselves into the training, forehands, backhand serves, the whole 9 yards. And then we were taken to their battle rooms, which is like their conference center. So Nick, who was the owner of this whole place, who created it back in the 80s and 90s with like Andre Agassi and Boris Becker, he had some military background as well. And he used to call his conference room his battle arena. So we were sat in there, and I just played a match. It lasted 40 minutes. Okay, we just played one set. It lasted 40 minutes. And he asked me a question. He said, Chris, how long do you think the tennis ball was in play for during those 40 minutes? I thought it was a strange question. I've never even been asked this before. I said, well, I don't know, 20, 25 minutes, Nick. And he said, 11 minutes. So he said, you've been in this competitive environment for 40 minutes. The score is 6-3. But actually the time hitting the ball is only 11 minutes. So then his next question was, How are you spending the rest of those 30 minutes during that time? And that's the bit that really dawned on me, that actually, when you look at some of the best performers in the world, right? So whether it's from a sporting perspective, it's golf, it's tennis, or even from an industry perspective in terms of, the best coders in the world, they all have an incredible competency around their technique. But it's the ones that manage their time the best, the ones that look after their emotions, how they feel, how they respond, how they react to certain situations. They're enabled to replicate and perform at their best when it matters most. So for me, self-mastery is really, really important. And I think it's always about learning on that journey. What are we going to cover today? Firstly, we're going to talk a little bit about what self-mastery means. So let's be super clear in our own heads in terms of what that means for you. And everybody is different. There is no doubt about that. And today is not us telling you how to behave or think or feel. It's about you finding that for yourself. And we'll give you some of the prompts and tools to be able to do that. We're going to ask you to create your legacy. So what is it, the legacy that you want to leave behind? So when you fast forward 10, 15, 20 years, how do you want to be remembered as a person, as an individual, as a leader? Jo's going to be really cool. She's going to talk about what's stopping you. She's got some really interesting tools to help you get over the points that are causing conflict and challenge around you achieving your goals. And then we're just going to finally touch on leadership mastery in terms of how your own self-mastery impacts those people around you. And hopefully I'll remember to talk a little bit later on about that as we come through it. But Jo, just give me some of your thoughts. I know this is sort of steeped in your background. I'd be good just to get your initial thoughts when self-mastery comes up. What comes into your brain?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. It's a huge one, isn't it? And I think that we all know it's there, but we don't actually dig as deep as we need to dig, because self-mastery is everything that's in here and everything that's in here. And that changes as we grow as people, as we go into new landscapes or start new businesses. We're constantly growing and evolving. And not only, like Chris was saying, does our skill set externally have to change, get good at marketing, get good at sales calls, but inside, the stuff that builds us as a person has to change too, because really it's the stuff that sits inside here, as I said, and inside here, that's going to transform your performance and your results. So that really the one key thing we have to remember is we have to conquer the inner world to conquer the outer world. Okay. And it's really easy to go to the outer world first and go, because we just want to get there. But you've got to look within. And it's that classic phrase, you've got to look within. So really, what is in here? Like what is in here? How do we define what's in here? Well, it's made up of different components, some of which you're going to be aware of and some of which you're not really going to be aware of. But one of the core things is your belief system. And now that may be a really foreign concept to some people, and belief normally is tied with religion. And we know what our beliefs are on that. You have or you don't have. However, what are our beliefs? Because whatever we truly believe to be true, so a very strong or ingrained opinion or a learned behavior from our parents or a rule, we tend to live by those. And the naughty thing about beliefs is that they're very much an unconscious thing. So we're not actually always aware of what our beliefs are. And if I were to ask many of you on this call right now, who can tell me what their beliefs are, I think you're going to find it difficult. So the first thing we need to do is become really aware, what are our beliefs? What do you live by? What do you believe to be true? And what are the old beliefs that you need to shed to keep yourself moving forward? Because a lot of the time we're carrying beliefs from the past, from someone else, and it's holding us back. So there's a lot of work that goes in there. From our beliefs, we then move to our thoughts. Like, we're all thinking, okay? We have around 60,000 thoughts a day. Incredible. But they tend to be between 5 and 7 of the same, what I call flavor. Okay. So Anna, you may have certain flavors of thought going through your mind, and Reese, you might have different ones, right? But we stick to our ingrained thought patterns. Okay. And sometimes they're very limiting. But once we realize what our thoughts are and our thinking is, that then moves into a feeling. So we all know this, right? If you think something and think something, so let's just say you think something sad, right? Let's go back. You think something sad, you think something sad, you bring up the memory and bang, all of a sudden you feel it. You're feeling sad. Thoughts create feelings. And the powerful thing here is that if you marry a thought with a feeling that aligns, it then creates Chris?
I'm here still, don't worry.
And action. Okay, so if you think something and it's in the same theme to what you feel, you then act on it. Okay, I want to go to the gym. I want to go to the gym. Okay, I feel like getting fit and burning off that dinner that I just ate. Boom, your trainers are on and you're down the gym. Okay, so thoughts and feelings equal your actions. If you're procrastinating, if you're deliberating, tends to be that your thoughts and feelings aren't aligned. Okay, a lot of people, we call it emotional resistance. But once you start thinking and feeling and believing and acting, that then becomes a habit, right? So it just then becomes something that you do. So it becomes a more permanent thing about yourself. And that's why it's really important to create good habits and have great discipline. But once we do this for a very long time, this is where it gets even deeper. It then becomes part of our, what we call our identity, which is the deepest level of ourselves. Okay, and if we start defining ourselves by what we think and what we feel and our habits and disciplines, that's going to then create and lead to our destiny. So we've moved through that slide quite quickly, but these are the different ingredients that are going to create your destiny and your legacy. And this is the stuff that we're going to start to work on.
Jo, and do you know one thing that I guess the belief system, I guess something you grow up with, parents, as you spoke about, teachers, religion, all of those components, and often formed at a really early age. One of the areas that I sort of realized that was quite powerful is if we go through a life-changing moment, how that alters our belief system. So how does somebody try and reset that belief system, Jo? Is there some cases or people you've worked with where you've had to really tackle their belief system, and how do you go about that as a coach?
Yeah, great question, Chris. Beliefs you can actually change within seconds. Yeah, and people will go on to this, but people feel that they can't change their belief system, but actually you do have a choice. And so becoming aware, Chris, is the first thing. So I'll give you an example of a personal example that in our family, I've got two sisters, and the way that we were brought up was that you always help each other. Okay, so you got rewarded for helping the other one. If you could help the sister that needed you, yeah, that helped my mom. Okay, so the belief system that I grew up with was that help others before you help yourself. Okay, but what I then found as I grew up and got into my 20s was that was working against me because I was helping others, but at the expense of myself. So it got a little bit out of context. So as soon as I started to dig into my beliefs, my resistance was, well, I want to help others. Yeah, and I'm still helping others, right? So that's me at an identity level. I didn't want to let that go. But what I also had to do was ensure that I looked after myself at the same time and came up with a win-win. So I didn't have to totally change my belief system, but I did have to adjust and tweak it to make it sit right for me.
Brilliant. Thanks for sharing. And I guess as we move on, I think this is, I guess for me, one of the most important slides we've got here today, because I think we're all driven by results. You as a business owner, when you come to our growth club sessions, which we've got one coming up very shortly in Henley, we focus on the results initially, don't we? We talk about what goals have you hit, what are the actions that you've taken, what are the decisions you made, and what is the outcome that you're driving towards. And if the one thing I've realized, I think through sport and through business is results is something we can't control. Okay, we can't control the end result because it often has external factors at play, other people, other arrangements, stakeholders, customers, clients, but we can control our actions that we take and our decisions we take on a day-to-day basis. But Jo, you talk really fondly and strongly about actually the power is even below that line. It's below the actions, decisions on a behavior on a day-to-day basis. Why is that so powerful, Jo?
Yeah, and again, this goes back to the inner world. So in order to be what I call aligned, yeah, which makes action easy when you're aligned internally, it just flows. We've got to start to work at the stuff underneath the surface. And a lot of this stuff is unconscious stuff. Yeah, so some of this stuff we'll be aware of, some of this stuff we won't be aware of. But for instance, if you don't know what your values are, and you haven't really defined them, as in business, if we don't know what our values are in business, it's quite difficult to make decisions. But any business that's worked on their vision, mission, and values, they know exactly what they're about. So they then know exactly who they want to recruit. They know how they should communicate with their clients and how they should be thinking and how they should prioritize. So we all have a vague idea of this stuff, but we don't really have the finer detail that we need. And the thing that I think is really exciting about this piece is that there are 3 really core things that we want to remember on this. The first one is we need to be fully aware. So when you're starting to do work on this stuff, what are your values? How do you identify yourself? Okay, how do you identify with others? How do you view others? How do you view the world? Yeah, if you view the world as a friendly place, you're going to have a lot of fun. If you view the world as a hostile place, you're going to feel a lot of tension and resistance. Okay, so it's getting specific in context. So 1, awareness. Okay, how aware are you of your thoughts and your feelings? How aware are you of your beliefs, your values, your identity? How aware are you of your headspace, your internal environment? What is going on in there? Okay, do you fill it with good thoughts or negative thoughts? So awareness is number 1. Number 2 is alignment. If you have a belief system, but it doesn't align with your values, you're going to find life hard. If you have thoughts that don't align with your beliefs, again, you're going to find it hard. And the third thing for me, which is the most exciting one, is that above the line, we think that there's choice. So we feel like we can change our actions. We can do something different. We can make a different decision. But we feel unconsciously that we don't have the power or the choice to change what sits beneath or what sits within. And actually, I've learned we do.
Great stuff. Great stuff. So this is, I think some of our clients will have definitely done some of this work with us in the past, but this is quite a powerful model that actually I remember David taking this through with me, God, a couple of years ago now. But the importance of this be times do equals have. So a lot of us on a day-to-day basis focus on the have. So what is it, the result that I want? So it might be, I want a business that turns over £1 million. I want to win, maybe it's accolades for you. Maybe it's about winning trophies and prizes and certificates. Maybe that's the thing that motivates you on a day-to-day basis. Maybe it's wealth, maybe it's family, happiness, maybe it's your own health. So we think about the things that we want. That tends to drive our behavior. But actually our very best, our very top performers think about it in a slightly different way. They think about who is it, the person that they need to be on a day-to-day basis that's then going to drive the actions, the things that they need to do, and the result is what they will have at the very end of it. So from a mindset perspective, I set on this call, gosh, wow. During the first lockdown, I think we only had about 30, 40 people on the call. It was about April, May last year. And I always say this, and I said, you know, I just started rowing. My boy bought a rowing machine home for during the lockdown, and he said, "Hey, Dad, do you reckon you could beat my time?" And I said, yeah, I'll definitely beat your time. So, and I did. That's the most important thing you'll remember from this call, that I did beat his time. And then I said, right, actually, I want to be the best I can do. What could I do? So I said, okay, well, look, I'm going to challenge myself, and I want to become a world-class rower. And then I went one stage further and said, actually, I want to be a world champion. So I've set myself the target of being a world champion rower in my age group over the next 12 months, which is really, really challenging. But the minute I said that, okay, there's a level of accountability because I'm saying who I need to be. I need to be a world-class rower. And then that starts to define the actions and the things that I need to do underneath that in order to become that person. And actually, it's a lot easier to be able to manage my mental state in order to achieve that than just focus on, you know, the end result. So becoming really clear about who you want to be. So that might be from your terms as a leader, as a business owner. What type of leader do you want to be? What type of business owner do you want to be? How do you want to be seen in your industry? Okay. And then what are the actions that you need to do in order to become that person? And as a result of those actions, then you'll get the results that are deserved to you. So as we move on, personal mastery, this is the first thing that we want you to do today. And it's quite a challenging thing. And it's about thinking and projecting yourselves into the future and asking yourself, who do you want to be? And I know this is, for me, I found this quite challenging at the start, and it does take a few minutes just to really put yourself into context. And one way you can think of it is that, you know, if you look back on your life, so you fast forward 10 to 15 years and you look back, how do you want to be remembered? What type of person do you want to be? Maybe a father, what type of mother, business owner, leader, friend, and then think about the actions that you need to take from those I am statements. So it may be, I am extremely confident. I am brave. I am courageous. I am giving. And what I'd like you to do today is just think about just 3 things that you would like to be. And I'd like you to write those down. Just take a couple of minutes to really think and hone those in. And you can either share them. In fact, Joe, would it be all right, Joe, to think if I just stop sharing the slides maybe, and we just open this up and just see if we can get a few people to share those statements? What do you think?
Yeah, Chris, do you want to just flip to the next slide so people can
Yeah,
so what we're talking about here, really, because it's quite a big task that we're asking, what we're really talking about is bringing it back to current day, and we're just saying, okay, what is it about me that I don't like or I want to change? Okay, so do you get nervous when you're about to do a pitch or a presentation? So is there some fear and some panic inside there? And what would you like to then become? So we call it current state and desired state. So what's my current state? I doubt myself quite a lot. How would I like to be? I'd like to be more confident and have more self-belief. So we're just looking for 3 things that you'd like to start to work on today and say, I am this. So I am confident, I have courage, I am whatever it might be for you. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah, and then maybe if you want to either stick them in the chat room, we'll see if we can put them up. We'll just give you a couple of minutes, and then maybe ask a couple of you to share them if you're feeling confident enough to do so.
Chris, do you want to stop sharing? And
yeah, I'll just stop sharing on this bit. Yeah, bear with me. Here we go. Perfect. Be another sort of minute or so just to think of those things.
Anyone's got one ready made, we'll take it.
And also, when you say it out loud to us, I also want you just to recognize how you feel about doing that as well. So how powerful does it feel actually when you say it out loud? There's a lot of people writing. Esharon's writing. Graham Galt's writing. I can see that. Okay, who would like to go first? Big challenge. My screen's probably not quite big enough to see all of you, actually.
Oh, Chris.
Yeah, go for it.
Darren.
I am true to my word.
Nice.
As a business owner, my values in the industry that we work in are rubber stamped and carried out to the point that all of our work is repeat work.
Absolutely brilliant. And just write that top, I guess is probably one of the values you live by, just that on the top of your journal on a basis, just remind yourself of that. And I guess, do you divulge that down to your team as well, Darren? Is that something that you live by so they follow?
Yeah, we have that on all our sites. It's in all the site offices. They are our values. We are true to our word as a business.
Brilliant.
And how powerful is that, right? Just hearing Darren say that, that's really powerful, isn't it? So everything that they do in their business, they're true to their word. So all the team know exactly what they have to do, because if they've said it, then they follow through with it. Powerful, isn't it?
Great job. Who else? Jamie, is that your hand up, or are you doing your camera? I'm not too sure.
I'm trying to adjust my light.
Oh, don't do that now, Jamie.
Who would like to share?
I'd like to be inspiring, and that's not just from the way our business operates and how we inspire people with our machines and our contraptions and inventions, but me as a leader, I want to inspire my people to always be better, to work hard. Yeah, I think inspirational, to inspire.
Amazing. And I like the subtle change, right? Because the first time you said it, I don't know if you realized, you said, I'd like to be inspiring. And then at the end, you were like, I'm going to be inspiring. I am going to be inspiring. That's a subtle change, isn't it? And actually, if you said that 3 times to yourself, I am inspiring. I am inspiring. Actually, what that does to your feeling, and your confidence is absolutely huge, isn't it? So that belief behind it, because if you don't believe it, then there is absolutely no way anybody else in that room is going to believe it either. So well done. Really like that, Reese. Thanks for sharing. Let's do one more, and then we'll jump back onto the presentation, Joe, I think. Let's have a look.
Helena is smiling. I feel like we should go with Helena.
Okay,
I can't hear you.
I'm smiling at you to tell you not to look at
Oh, sorry.
I don't mind. I don't feel like this is very businessy, but just on a personal level, I am in charge of my feelings. It's going to be one of mine, which I think you'll like, Jane.
That is brilliant. That's so good, isn't it? Right? Because a lot of us kind of pretend that we're not, and we generally blame others for triggering us, right? it's their fault, they did this, they said that, they didn't do that, right? No, not true. We have our own feelings and we are in control of our own feelings. Maybe not right now, but there is a way to get in control of it. And when you can, it's an amazing and very liberating feeling. So I love that one, Hannah. High five.
Good stuff. Listen, we'll go back to the screen. Bear with me. Here we go. Perfect. So let's move on one slide. So what is stopping you? Okay, so you've all wrote something down there. So you've all wrote something down, hopefully 3 things, you know, inspirational, courageous, in charge of your feelings, whatever that may be for you. It is personal. Okay, it is personal. Everybody will be different. Okay, and what are the things that we need to master in order to make sure that actually you can execute those statements and feelings on a day-to-day basis? First up, the inner dialogue. Okay, so there's 4 dimensions. We've got inner dialogue, we've got stress response, we've got habits and disciplines, and we've got your emotional state. The first thing I just want to talk about is your inner dialogue. So notice, what stories do you tell yourself? What is that? Are they positive stories? Jo touched on this before in terms of our thought process, which then leads to our feelings, which leads to our actions. So they're positive stories you tell yourself. So we talk about that inspiration piece as an example. Do you give yourself positive reinforcement about how inspirational you are? Do you give yourself an inner dialogue that you are inspirational? Or does it become negative? Oh, I've not done this before. They didn't quite follow my lead. So those stories that you tell yourself on a day-to-day basis actually go some way to your actions and your habits. Believing in your ability. So if you haven't read the book by Dr. Stephen Peters, really interesting book all about chimp management, about our inner game, our inner model, that we've got our self-conscious state, and we've got this little chimp that sits on our shoulder that also is that inner doubt, that person that says, oh, I don't think you should be able to do that, or you might not be able to get up on your stage, or you're not inspirational today. And you have to manage that. So what are the things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis to be able to manage that? And are you a friend or foe inside? Do you trust yourself? Are you positive? Are you happy? Or as Jo said before, or are you giving yourself negative thinking and feelings as you go through some of these challenging areas?
So
Jo, yeah, go for it.
Before we go on to the next one, just wanted to a couple of shares.
Yeah.
So the first one I just want to point out is in your inner dialogue, you know, one that comes up for everyone is your inner critic. Yeah, so how much do you criticize yourself? It doesn't have to be active criticism. It can be the sigh that you give yourself, okay, or the that you can give yourself, okay, because that's going to be that's backward looking, right? It's not going to incentivize you to go do the thing you want to do. So just start to become aware of your inner critic. And the second thing is, what are you comparing yourself to? Because whatever you're comparing yourself to in your head is going to dictate whether you move forward or whether you stagnate, okay? So if you have a pile of jobs that should have been done and you're always in the mindset of, I should have done it, I didn't do it, why didn't I do it? That's what I call circular thinking, and you're not going to get that stuff done, okay? But if you compare it to 3 months' time when you've worked through that stuff and you've got it all done and you future pace to a time when it is done, you're more likely to create the inertia to then create the action. So what are you comparing yourself to? And similarly in business, right? We're all growing businesses and it's challenging. So what are you comparing yourself to? Are you saying we didn't do this and we should have done it and we've messed up? Okay, because you know how it should be? Or are you saying, hey, we're on the journey and we're going to do this and I'm really proud of ourselves for starting this? Okay, so what does it sound like? And a lot of you are not going to be aware of what those in detail thoughts sound like.
Stress response, Jo.
Oh, this is a massive one.
This is your favorite, isn't it?
My favorite. There's loads of favorites on this talk. Everything's my favorite.
I know it is. I can tell.
Yeah, our stress response gets triggered. So fight, flight, and freeze. You'll all have heard of that. Okay, so fight, flight, and freeze is only supposed to be there for actual life-threatening emergency situations. But modern day life and business owner life makes it active pretty much most of the time. But the issue that we have is it works against us. Okay, so it actually changes our whole physiology inside. So that's our breathing rate, that's the blood flow, that's our brainwave frequency. So if we go into a state of stress and we then make a decision, it's likely to be the wrong decision, or it's likely to be a knee-jerk decision. Okay, so identifying when you've been triggered, and it doesn't mean you have to feel stressed to be triggered. It might mean you have a long day of deadlines, okay? But identifying when you're in the stress state versus the relaxed state is going to really determine you know, how you act and the decisions that you make. A couple of things just to point out on this one is that when you are in that stress state, it's very momentary. So if you find yourself running around like a headless chicken thinking, I've got to make a decision now, okay, it's going to be irrational, and it's not going to be the right decision because you're in stress state, okay? Because when you do have a life-threatening situation, you do have to act quick, and it's all about the moment, okay? So there's no future planning. So we're going to start to understand how to take ourselves out of that. And the second thing I wanted to just touch on here is that we become very reactive, okay? And we don't want to become reactive, because when we become reactive, emotions get involved and we start bringing emotions to the business table. We definitely don't want to be doing that, okay? So if you find yourself overreacting to something, or if you find yourself getting emotional about something or annoyed, your stress response has been triggered, don't make a business decision at that time.
I think that's really valid. And actually just linking back, you know, from the story I was just explaining at the start in terms of the tennis and 30 minutes not playing tennis, what do you do? They came up with 3 R's to help you through that process. So firstly, after a moment has happened, so this could be a business deal for you. If it's a sports person, it could be just an action on the sports field. But firstly, it's just to recognize the situation you're in. So taking that ability to assess the situation, so recognize. The second thing we need to do is just reflect. So before making a decision, just reflect on what's happening. And then the final R is then you'd make that response. And actually our best performers, our highest performers, whether it's in the business world or the sports world, have great habits and disciplines that enable them. So they give themselves the processes and tools to be able to manage those situations to the best of their ability. I was listening to, I'm trying really badly to play golf at the moment. I'm learning slowly. So I was watching a bit of the US Open preparation, watching Rory McIlroy speak on the press conference. As you may well know, McIlroy obviously has done well over the years, stayed in the sort of top 10, 15 for quite a period of time. And he was asked about his game. And he said, you know, what advice do you give to the younger players? And he said, well, in fact, I was on the course today with a young girl, 14. And they said, great, what advice did you give? And he said, well, actually, my technique's not changed for years, right? My technique has always been my technique, but actually how I think and feel about how I execute that technique on a day-to-day basis changes. So he spends a lot of time at the end of the day reflecting on his thinking and on his feelings and the emotions that he's had around his execution of his skill, which enables him to really answer that in a dialogue to himself. So let's think of it from your perspective as a business owner. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you win the sale. Fantastic. We don't reflect. We just go on to the next one. You've been in a sales meeting, you've executed, we got a new client. That's absolutely brilliant. But then actually the next 3 days, we don't make the sales. So we're in the same meetings. We do everything exactly the same, but we don't execute it. And why is that? What is that change? Because the process hasn't changed, but actually something's gone wrong there. Now, the best performers just review those actions. So how did I think about that? How did I prepare in that situation? Did I go through my process before making that sales call? What was the ritual or routine that I've created ahead of that sales call to get myself into the right mental and physical state to be at the best of my ability? Or did I rush it? Did I rush it because the last 3 days have been so successful, I felt I haven't needed to prepare and I wasn't organized for this one and I haven't performed? So actually, as a business owner, when you look at all your key tasks, you can create rituals and routines around the things that are going to be most important for you so that you can prepare yourself both physically and mentally to be at your best possible state. So we, like Joe and I talk about with all of our clients, a really clear start and end to the day. So really have a real clear start and end to the day. That's important for us to get yourself into the right mindset. And as Joe spoke about before, you know, you could have this huge to-do list. We actually say just focus on 3 key things because we want to build that momentum on a day-to-day basis. The final one, which I really enjoy, is that visualization. And that comes back to those I am statements and who you want to be. So visualizing yourself, what does your company look like in 3 years' time? What type of a leader are you? Let's fast forward 3 years' time. How many people are working with you? You can really visualize what that looks and feels like. And actually that excites you and motivates you and helps get you into the right place. And I think that brings us nicely onto emotions, Joe.
Yeah, it really does. And a couple of points. So on the visualization one, you know, the studies have been done that says that it's not just the visualization where, you know, is where the power sits. The power sits in the emotion. So if you visualize it, that's great. But if you visualize it, but you then feel what that feels like in the future, It's far more powerful. You're going to be far more successful if you feel what it feels like. So visualize it, but then feel it. That will create the action. And just touching on something you were just saying, Chris, you know, I always remember I was brought up on football, not rugby, Chris, sorry. But, you know, you could always see that, you know, England, especially, you know, in the World Cup or in the Euros, you know, the ones that were going to take the penalty in the penalty shootout, you could always kind of tell the ones that were going to miss it, couldn't you? Before they'd even taken it, because they were a little bit rushed and their heads was a little bit everywhere and a little bit stuttery, and, you know, you knew it was going to, yeah.
They were hoping for an advertising deal with a pizza company, that's all.
There you go. There you go. But you could see, right, you could see before, you could see who was in their zone, and Harry Kane, especially, obviously the England football team, I think they've been doing mindset work on them, because, you know, over the last sort of 5-10 years, you can see that he puts himself in a very clear headspace when he has to take a penalty. He detaches from everyone before he goes for it, and he blanks everything out. And I just want you to think about that as a business owner, yeah? So when you get off the phone and someone's annoyed you and you put the phone down, it's time for you to zone out and reset before you go speak to your next client or your team member. It's a really good practice to have. So now, yeah, let's come on to emotions. So emotions are there more than we know. Especially in my previous work, I'd run workshops, men, women, group workshops, and this would come up as a title. And generally the men, I'm sorry guys, but generally the men would say, yeah, I identify with this, this and this, but I don't have that. And after day 3 on the catch up, yeah, guess what? They did have some of that. So we all have feelings, right? They don't have to be that extreme, but we do have them, and we definitely all have different moods. Okay, and we definitely all have different types of energy on certain days. So if your energy isn't great on a day, it means that your mood isn't that great, and it means that your emotional state isn't that great. And we all know that on low energy days, we don't get much done. So it's going to create a blocker, an emotional resistance, I call it. If you don't know why you're not getting to that thing that you're not doing, or you're just finding life a bit hard that day, it's normally because there's an emotional blocker. And anyone who does yoga will know with your chakras, they talk about blockages, and it's very much about your emotional blockages that are stopping the fluidity of your thoughts, feelings, and your actions. So we just really want to become aware of, how am I feeling? So check in with yourself. How am I feeling today? And can I change my emotional state? Okay, because it really defines your perspective. If we get that email, or if we get someone say something to us and we're in a bit of a crappy mood and are feeling a bit negative, we perceive what that person's saying as negative. It's generally not, right? We define our own reality. There's no such thing as reality. It's about our perspective and the meaning that we attach. So it's just really bringing to the forefront of your mind your emotional state. So it's the stuff that sits underneath that waterline.
Thanks for sharing, Jo. Jo, maybe talk through these key tools, because I really like the brain training piece.
Yeah, so we wanted to give you a few tools that you can go away and work with, but they're very much a layered approach. So they're very intricate tools, but we always start with the first level. You master that, and then we get to the next one. So 3 things that you can walk away with today. The first one is brain training. Okay, so we really want to be able to isolate our thinking. And for those of you that we coach, there's a lot of you on the call, we always say to you at the beginning of our coaching calls, what were your wins? Okay, now we do want to know about your challenges, but we want to know just about your wins first, and then we talk about your challenges. And this is for a couple of reasons. Number one, when you think something, it creates a feeling, right? We've already established that. Your thoughts create your feelings. However, if you think a good thought and is very quickly matched with a not so good thought, your body doesn't know what feeling it should be producing. Okay, so let's just say the classic Brit, when we could go on holiday, we would say, how was your holiday? And they would say, quite monotone, yeah, it was good. One of the kids got food poisoning on day 3, but the weather was nice. The hotel wasn't as good as it used to be, but, you know, it was a good break. And you walk away thinking, well, did they have a good time or did they not have a good time? Yeah. So if you don't know if they had a good time, how does their body know if they had a good time? So what is far more productive is if they said, yeah, it was great. The weather was great. The hotel was great. We had a real laugh. We bumped into people that we haven't seen for years that we met. It was brilliant, because when you're doing that, you're just sending one message to the body, which is happiness. Yeah. And then you're going to feel good. And then you speak about the not so good stuff. It will balance itself out. Okay. But if you give mixed messages, your body won't produce a good feeling. Number 2, anchoring. Okay. So our feelings are a behavior. We can change how we feel. We wake up of a day and then we just feel how we feel. So if we didn't have a good dream last night, if we had a nightmare, we carry that with us in our emotional state. If something was bothering us yesterday, we carry that. Okay. And I'm just going to challenge you and say to you, okay, what I want you to do when you wake up in the morning to reset your day is start to think about, how do you want to feel? Okay. And pick 3 different types of feelings. Happy, excited. Yeah. Up for it. Yeah. Calm. And then I just want you to spend a few moments thinking about what it feels like to feel happy. So go back to a time when it felt happy. Go back to a time when you had a laugh with someone. Think about a TV program or a movie or music that made you feel happy, and just sit in that happiness for a few moments. Okay. Because the thing with meditation and mindfulness is that when you're in it, it's great. Yeah. You feel good. You've let go of everything. But as soon as you face the challenges of the day, everything comes back. So mindfulness and meditation is good, but if you can start to what I call anchor these positive feelings, you're going to feel much better and you're going to do much better. And the third tool, which I think you guys will find really helpful, is that when we interact with others, yeah, we all try to communicate, but we've all got our own worlds going on in here. So I want you to start to look beneath communication, and I want you to start to look at the underlying positive intention. And I want you to meet it at that level. Okay. And because this is where misunderstandings happen, this is where conflict happens. And normally you find that the underlying intention was good. So it could be someone in your team did something, but they didn't do it how you wanted to do it. Don't meet it head on. Take yourself out of the situation, observe the situation and say, what was their underlying positive intention? And if you tackle it from that angle, you're going to get a much more constructive outcome.
Brilliant. Thanks for sharing, Jo. So the final sort of piece of the jigsaw, last couple of slides just to think about today, is the leader's influence. And I guess my question really is for you just to think about at the moment is, you know, the impact of your own self-mastery. How does that affect those people around you? So how does your mood, your energy, the words that you use, your actions on a day-to-day basis, the habits, how does that impact your team? How does that impact your family, your clients, stakeholders, shareholders, board directors? How does it impact that? And I think one of the most powerful examples, you know, certainly from my own perspective, was during the Invictus Games. I remember we were at the White House. We'd gone to brief the First Lady's office on PTSD cases across all of the different nations competing in the Invictus Games. And you know, it's quite a somber stats in terms of what you're talking about. And I remember when the First Lady walked in, and the impact that she had on this room was just absolutely incredible. The energy that she came in with, the smile on her face, the words that she utilized, the actions that she took in and around people was just really incredible and really inspiring. And certainly from just being in the room was really uplifting, really motivating, and actually it makes you want to go and perform at your best. It wants you to emulate those things. So actually, when you think about yourself in terms of this self-mastery, yes, it's important to conquer it for yourself to be the best version of you. But I really want you to think about the impact, those feelings, emotions, thoughts, actions that you're having on a day-to-day basis, your energy levels. Think about the impact that's having on those people around you. Because as you know, David and Jo have spoken about on numerous occasions, okay, as your business grows, you go from that 1 person to 2 people to 3 people to 5 to 10. Actually, it's about empowering those people underneath so that they can drive that business for you, so that you have the opportunity to work on the business versus in it. And it's only going to be really powerful, and you're able to do that is if you can conquer this inner spirit yourself in the first instance.
Chris, that ties in really nicely with the Barack Obama. One part of his speech was that, you know, one voice can change a room. And then he said, and if one voice can change a room, that voice can change a city. And if that voice can change a city, it can change a state. And if it can change a state, it can change a nation. And if it can change a nation, it can change the world. Then he ended and said, your voice can change the world. And
I think that it's almost like they've got a great marriage as well. Incredible family.
Maybe she got it from him.
Maybe they are married, who knows? But listen, being obsessed, these there's a few books on this, right? So if you look at the best performers, so if you could look at your industry, okay, or the businesses that you work alongside or compete against, what are the top people doing? What are the behaviors that they're modeling? What are the habits that they undertake on a day-to-day basis? And they are obsessed about improvement. They're obsessed about that self-growth. Okay, always looking for that continuous improvement. So to do learn, review, apply the sort of learning cycle. And if I asked you this today, okay, could you perform today 1% better than you did yesterday in terms of your own self-mastery? Could you do it? My guess would be yes, right? Just 1%. I'm not asking for a lot, right? I'm just saying, can you do it just 1% better? Choose an area. It might be your thinking, your responses to situation, how you handled a sales call, how you onboarded a new client, the way you spoke to your team. Could you do it just 1% better? I'd like to think you could all do that. So what would be the impact if we adopted that mindset towards our self-mastery and our improvement for the next 100 days? Think of the improvement and the impact that's going to have on you personally and professionally. And what's the impact that's going to have on your team, your family, and your business? It's huge. It's absolutely huge. So my challenge to you today is, can you take that mindset forward? Jamie Heaslip, when I spoke to him on one of the podcasts, Irish Rugby International, said that's all I tried to do every single day. Can I just be 1% better? That's all I'm looking to do. Just 1%, because I know over time that compound interest of just 1% better will make a huge difference to my performance, and it sets the bar. So moving forwards, this is the last piece I'm going to ask you to think. I know it's a deep session, right? Like marketing, financial, do this. Go and follow this process, make these things happen. This is definitely challenging our inner thoughts, and it is a challenge, and it should be a challenge because it's really important. But what I want you to think about just going forward, just 3 simple things that we want to finish the session with today. Okay. What's the thing you're going to stop doing today? What's the one thing that is negatively affecting your performance? So what is it? So that could be a feeling, an emotion, could be a habit, it could be an action that you undertake, it could be a mindset, it could be a behavior. Okay. So not the result. What is it you're going to stop doing? What is it that's going really well that you're going to continue doing? So some of you might have great routines. You might be great at visualizing the sales call before executing the sales call. You might be great at getting your mindset in the right position before you deliver a speech. So what is the thing you're going to continue doing? And that's really important because we want to build on that. We don't want to take that away. And based on what we spoke about today, and we've covered a lot of different areas, and I know it's gone quite deep in certain places, but what is the one thing we're going to start doing today? Okay, what is it? Just choose one. What is it? Is it going to be how you approach your day? I like what Joe spoke about, and I definitely don't do that enough. Whilst I've got a clear start to the day, I don't intentionally set my feelings at the start of the day. How do I want to feel about today? So if I'd have wrote those down today, I actually woke up, I was like, oh, it's raining, I've got to walk the dog, then I've got to feed the other dog. And it's like, but if I'd have said, I'm looking forward to doing this today, I want to feel happy, I want to feel energetic, I want to feel excited, that would have definitely changed my state. So just think about one thing that you want to start. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. We're then going to, I think I'm going to hand over to David. We'll open it up. For those of you who want to share maybe a stop or a start or a continue, that would be amazing. Please feel free to do so. If anybody's got any sort of broader questions, we've got another sort of 8 or 9 minutes, and then we're going to go and smash our day. So let me stop sharing my screen. David, I'm going to hand back over to you. And Joe, what an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
David, over to you, sir.
First of all, Chris and Jo, I just want to say a massive thank you, because I got a book full of notes here. So I thought that was amazing stuff. So thank you so much for all that stuff. And a lot of people saying the same thing on the notes, and I can see their body language as well. So that's fantastic. So the question I want to ask you guys is what takeouts did you get from that? Yeah, what are a couple of things that what I call sort of light bulb moments that says, hey, what did I get from that? So does anyone want to share either their stop, start, continue things, or some observations that you felt as a result of what you've heard this morning? So Rachel has put it in the chat box. Love the 1%. Thank you very much. That's a really easy concept, isn't it? 1%. We can all get 1%. Brilliant. Any other takeouts that people have got from this morning?
I'll share a continue. I feel really nervous. I've just got a real wave of anxiety about doing this. It feels so personal. But Jo has worked a lot with me on talking about the anchoring of something, and I would really urge anyone to do that with Jo and to learn some of the strategies, because I don't want to kind of overstate it, but it has been like actually life changing for me. Like it filters into everything that I'm doing. I feel like I can filter those things into like how I'm speaking to my kids. But anyway, there's a particular strategy that Jo has that I just want to call the kind of square thing. And she got me doing it, and I found it really useful once, that 1%. And then I found in a couple of days that I did it maybe 5 or 6 times, just to kind of reassess what I was feeling about something and how I was going to act on something. And then I've noticed that as I've started to feel quite good, I've then just let the kind of strategy slide. I haven't done it as much, and it's just a real mistake. So to kind of recognize when you are actually feeling good, to still do those things that you would do to try and make yourself feel good. And one tiny thing that was massively changing is to understand how close the feeling of anxiety and the feeling of excitement is. And actually, if you just listen to where the anxiety is coming from, you can quite easily just relabel it. And I've said enough words. It's really awesome.
Great, thank you. The key bit there, I think, is about developing habits. I was lucky enough to be in a coaching session with a coach that is a Manchester City coach, and they haven't done too bad. And he was saying, look, we get players to this level of performance, and then after a while, they drift off. And they were trying to understand why was that. It's the same with us as business owners. And a lot of it is your brain is saying, I can do this now. And your brain actually gets cocky, yeah? And it forgets the method behind it, and it forgets the process behind it. But actually, that technique that you learned, Helena, if you did it every day, you'd be brilliant, right? You would, absolutely. So some of it is just getting some of these techniques that are good for us, the visualization bit or the I am statements. I've got another coach I work with. He religiously every morning does his I am statements. Yeah, he's a top performing coach. He's one of the top 3 in the world actually now. And every single morning, he actually sets it on his phone. And his phone, Siri says his I am statements to him as he gets in the car. Yeah, and it sets his brain for the day. And he puts a lot of his success down to that. But,
and David, just to jump onto that, I mean, just to give you a flavor in terms of that habit, the habit setting, on average, they talk about in this sort of European Journal of Psychology, 66 days. Okay, so 66 days on average to set a habit. It is wide ranging depending on how complex the habit is you're trying to create. But actually, if you do something intentionally for 66 days, then there's a great chance of that habit then sticking. So if it's the I am statements on the morning, whatever you decide you're going to start doing today, right, you have to execute that over 66 days as a minimum. So maybe set yourself a challenge on that start, or if it's that square thing, sounds very technical, but whatever that is, right, then do it for 6. That's my challenge to you. Come back to me in 66 days and said, I've done it. And then actually it's a great opportunity for it then to stick, because then it just becomes part of our DNA. It becomes part of something that we just tend to do unconsciously, because we want to get to that unconscious state, so we become unconsciously competent in that particular skill to make it happen. Okay, and what David talks there about Siri, man would probably say I am late because I'm late to most meetings, but actually that's that cue, it's that reminder, isn't it? It's that reminder to think or feel or behave in that certain way. So can you create that cue on a day-to-day basis that reminds you to be able to do that action or that habit? So 66 days, set yourself a challenge around that on the start, stop, continue. That would be awesome. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
That's great. Thank you, Helena. So you only got another 59 days to go, Helena. Off you
Sorry,
go.
Helena.
Janet, I think you wanted to say something. I think unmute yourself and share.
So I think for me, what was really interesting is the whole process of beliefs create thoughts, create feelings, actions, habits, identity, and destiny. But it starts with your beliefs, because I know a number of people that I speak to feel they can't change their beliefs. And yet if it starts with your belief and you think you can't change your belief, you don't get the end results you're trying to achieve in the first place. So, and it also explains why if two people come from the same family under the same circumstances and one person achieves so much more than the other, it's the way you think results in what you achieve as well.
Yeah.
So I think that's really interesting.
Yeah. And the thing that's really powerful is that once you form that as a habit or a belief, unless you consciously and actively change it, you continue to live by it. So that's why it's really important that how we were defined potentially by our parents, you know, with goodwill, but they didn't mean to, but if they allowed us, or if we perceived how they were speaking to us and let them define us, and it's holding us back, it's what I call a self-limiting belief. We need to shed that and replace it with a much better belief, a more empowering one.
I think another important part of that, which we haven't mentioned today, is pick the people you have around you. Because if you don't have people that are challenging and inspiration around you, no one's going to challenge your beliefs, right? You're just going to be in your own comfortable world, not being challenged. So you only change your belief if somebody challenges you. Obviously, I'm advertising coaching here as well, because that's what a coach will do to you every single week. But the other thing is the peer group that you mix with. So I encourage you to, go mix with the challenging peer group that's going to challenge you and inspire you, because they will move your beliefs and your aspirations as well. So, hey, look, we're nearly at the end. I just want to thank Chris and Jo again, and all of you for participating in the Mastery Series. I hope you found it useful. The participation has been amazing. And I just want to leave you with one thought. I mean, I had quite a long career in business, and then only went into coaching about 6 years ago. I wish I'd have got into coaching a long time ago, because the one thing that I have learned is that actually you can be whatever you want to be. You can. Any human being can be what they want to be. You've just got to decide what you want to be and then go do it. So, and some of the people we work with, they started here, they decided what they want to be, and they're here. And I see that every day. So the one thing I'm going to send you away with, decide who you want to be and just go do it. You only get one life, but you can do it. So on that note, I'm going to say have a fantastic weekend. Look forward to seeing you all on the next event. We've got Growth Club on Thursday for those guys that are coming. And also new news, Chris and Jo are actually just set up a leadership residential course in September, where they'll be going through all of this stuff in more depth. So if that's something that's interested you or any members of your team, please contact either Chris or Jo on that one. So thanks very much. Have a fabulous weekend and see you soon. See you guys.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.